Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to, cut through the noise and really get to the heart of what matters for you. AI is just, it's everywhere now, isn't it?
It really is. Hard to ignore.
Yeah, it went from sci-fi to, well, our daily lives so fast. Online stuff, business automation, even those chatbots we all talk to now. But the big question for us today is, what does all this mean for healthcare? And specifically for clinicians like you who are right there on the front lines. The stakes feel so much higher.
That's exactly it. That's the core of our deep dive today. We're zeroing in on how AI intersects with actual medical practice. And that includes patient expectations, the whole regulatory landscape, the ethics. It's real tightrope.
Right.
Plus, we have to tackle the big issues, equity, bias, which is huge, and of course, the costs. What does it actually cost to bring this tech into medicine?
And we have a guide for this, right?
We do. A really important one. It's the National Academy of Medicine's 2025 Artificial Intelligence Code of Conduct for Health and Medicine. Think of it as a blueprint, a vital guide to using this powerful tech responsibly, specifically for patient care, not just, general business use.
Got it. So our mission today, let's unearth the key insights from this source, give you a shortcut to being genuinely informed about health AI. We're hoping to find some surprising facts, maybe some practical takeaways you can actually use, whether you're prepping for a meeting, just trying to catch up, or frankly, just curious about what's coming next.
Sounds good. Let's dive in.
Okay, so first things first. Why AI and why now? We hear so much about it being this potential savior for healthcare, but what are the real problems it's meant to be solving? Is it really going to fix things like burnout or costs? Or is that just, the marketing spin we get everywhere else?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's probably a bit of both. I mean, look at the costs. Healthcare spending, 17.3% of the U.S. GDP back in 2022.
Wow.
That number keeps everyone up at night. And then you've got the human side, something like 35% of physicians reporting burnout.
35%? That's staggering.
It is. It feels like the whole system is just running on fumes sometimes. Yeah. So AI isn't just arriving as some shiny new tech.
It's more like needed.
Almost like a desperate intervention, yeah, for problems that just aren't sustainable anymore. It's like a powerful new tool showing up right when the old ones are really feeling the strain, at their breaking point almost.
So beyond fixing the strain, what can it actually do in healthcare? What are the concrete opportunities?
Well, they're pretty compelling and often quite different from general business AI. Take efficiency, we're seeing AI tools automate things like documentation.
Okay, admin tasks.
Exactly. Freeing up clinician time, which ideally means more time for patients.
That'd be huge.
Then there's logistics. Think supply chains. AI is streamlining incredibly complex processes, like using drones with AI to deliver vaccines or blood products in places like Ghana and Rwanda.
Really?
Yeah. Direct impact on patient lives in remote areas. It's not just about warehouse efficiency. It's about getting critical supplies where they're needed fast, and then diagnostics and actual clinical care. This is where it gets really interesting. AI can increase speed and accuracy.
How so?
Things like interpreting pathology results faster and potentially more accurately, or even AI-assisted procedures.
Like surgery.
Not just surgery, even things like colonoscopies. AI can help prompt a fuller examination, maybe spot things the human eye might overlook.
Oh, okay.
And for patients themselves, empowerment. Think wearables, remote monitoring tools using AI.
Like fitness trackers?
Sort of, but more sophisticated. Assessing sleep, breathing, heart rhythms, even analyzing voice data to connect a patient's daily experience back to research or their own care management.
Voice data? Wow.
Yeah, it's moving fast. And finally, biomedical research. AI is speeding up drug discovery, finding new targets, assessing toxicity. Things that used to take years, now happening much faster.
It definitely sounds like there's massive belief behind this. You mentioned investment.
Oh, huge. The numbers are pretty big. $1.5 billion from U.S. non-defense agencies back in 2021.
Okay.
And the private sector, over $340 billion pouring in.
$340 billion.
Yeah. It's a massive push, a real signal that many believe this could be transformative for healthcare's deep-rooted problems. It brings, a new sense of hope, but the stakes, as you said, are just so much higher than in other sectors.
Okay, so that's the promise, but with great power.
Comes great responsibility, exactly. While the potential is immense, we absolutely have to talk about the new concerns, the risks. Because AI in medicine isn't like a chatbot suggesting a movie. This has immediate, potentially life or death consequences.
Right.
It's definitely not a magic bullet. There are serious challenges. First up, safety and effectiveness.
Meaning, it might not work.
Or worse, it might fail dangerously. An AI tool could miss a critical diagnosis. Or it could over-alert, constantly flagging things.
Alert fatigue, I hear about that a lot.
Precisely. Clinicians get overwhelmed, start ignoring alerts. That's a safety risk right there. And then there's data privacy and security. This is a massive one.
Because AI needs so much data.
Exactly. Huge data sets to train these complex models. And healthcare data is incredibly sensitive. We saw huge breaches just in 2024 affecting hundreds of millions of people.
Hundreds of millions.
Yeah. And think about the type of data, especially for, say, behavioral health AI. We're talking voice patterns, eye movements, facial expressions, how you move, reaction times.
Wow, that's deeply personal.
Extremely. And while it holds promise for care, imagine that data falling into the wrong hands. The potential for nefarious use is, well, it's significant. Much more so than your shopping history.
Okay, that leads right into another really tough area. Bias and equity.
Critical.
We know AI learns from data, and if the data reflects existing societal biases,
The AI can bake them right in, or even amplify them.
the classic example that always comes up is pulse oximeters, right?
Absolutely. A stark, real-world example, lower accuracy for patients with darker skin tones.
Which led to
Delayed recognition of hypoxia, low oxygen levels during COVID. Terrible outcomes. So for you, as a clinician listening, if these biases aren't actively rooted out,
AI could lead to misdiagnosis or the wrong treatment.
yes, potentially making existing health disparities even worse. It's not like a biased movie recommendation. This has real clinical consequences.
And what about understanding how the AI makes decisions? The black box problem.
Another huge challenge, explainability and transparency, or the lack thereof. See, older digital health tools, the rule-based ones, they were designed so you could, trace the logic. If X and Y, then Z.
You could follow the steps.
Right. But many modern AI models, especially things like deep neural networks, they're like these incredibly complex webs. Even the developers don't always fully grasp how they arrive at a specific output.
So it's literally a black box.
Yeah.
Data goes in, answer comes out.
But the how is murky.
Pretty much. And then you have generative AI, the kind that creates text, images, code. It's powerful, but it can also hallucinate.
Make things up. Exactly. Produce inaccurate results that look completely plausible. Very hard to spot sometimes. Which leads to a fundamental question.
How can you trust it?
Right. How can clinicians trust, and importantly, be accountable for, decisions made by a tool they don't fully understand, especially when a patient's health is on the line?
And then there are the impacts on the people using it, the workforce, and the cost.
Yes. Workforce impact and scalability, big considerations. There are real fears about job displacement, sure, but also the need for significant retraining.
And maybe relying too much on the AI.
That's a risk too. Over-reliance, potentially leading to de-skilling, where clinicians lose proficiency in certain areas because the AI handles it.
And the cost isn't just buying the software, is it?
Not at all. High initial costs, yes, but also ongoing maintenance, plus the need for specialized staff to manage these systems.
Which could lead to unequal access.
That's the real worry. Wealthier, larger organizations, maybe academic centers in cities, can afford it. Smaller clinics, rural hospitals, maybe not.
So the tech meant to help could actually widen the gap in care.
It's a definite risk. We already see signs that AI is more likely to be adopted in higher income metropolitan areas. It's not automatically democratic like, say, a free consumer app.
It feels important then to really nail down why these advanced AIs are so different from older tech. You mentioned rule-based systems versus machine learning.
Yes, that distinction is crucial for understanding why these risks are so pronounced. The key difference, advanced AI, machine learning, generative AI, these systems learn and adapt over time on their own without direct human intervention.
Based on new data coming in.
Exactly. Massive, constantly changing data sets. Often unstructured data too. Images, audio, text, rule-based systems. They're static. They only change if a human programmer manually updates the rules.
Okay, so the AI is constantly evolving.
Which leads directly to those challenges. Explainability is harder, transparency is tougher, and you need this constant, complex monitoring. You have to watch out for drift.
Drift, what's that?
That's when the AI's performance subtly changes over time. Maybe it becomes less accurate or develops a new bias because the data it's seeing has changed. And this can happen even if nobody touches the underlying code.
Wow. So you can't just install it and assume it's fine.
Absolutely not. Continuous monitoring is essential. And what's also kind of fascinating and worrying is how accessible some AI tools are now.
Like on your phone.
Yeah. People might be using consumer-grade AI for health purposes, making it much harder to track adherence to safety standards or best practices compared to AI deployed within a controlled hospital system. It's a unique challenge for healthcare.
Okay, so hearing all this, the complexity, the risks, the potential for things to go wrong, does sound a bit familiar. Haven't we been down a similar road before? With electronic health records, maybe?
That's a really insightful parallel, the EHR rollout. It definitely wasn't smooth sailing.
I remember the hype. EHRs were going to revolutionize everything. Then came the frustration.
Oh, absolutely. Remember that 2021 survey? Only about 25% of physicians were actually very satisfied with their EHRs, even after years of use and all that initial enthusiasm.
25%.
Ouch. It was a real roller coaster. And you see the parallels with AI, don't you?
Definitely. The initial big claims about benefits?
Then the reality hits. Usability issues, clinicians feeling like data entry clerks, workload shifts.
Data security worries, privacy concerns.
And burnout. EHRs were a major contributor to clinician burnout. It even led to initiatives like getting rid of stupid stuff just to streamline workflows.
Yeah, trying to claw back some sanity.
But to be fair, it wasn't all bad. Legislation like the Hate Tech Act did help.
Right, the financial incentive.
Exactly. It pushed adoption rates way up, and studies did show positive impacts on things like mortality and quality of care eventually. So it was painful, but it did move the needle.
So what are the key lessons from that EHR journey that we absolutely need to apply to AI? What should we be, as you said, hyper aware of?
Well, first is trustworthiness. Just like with EHRs, AI faces huge hurdles around reliability, fairness, bias. That initial skepticism is there again, and maybe for good reason.
Okay. Trust is foundational.
Absolutely. Second, behavioral control, or maybe think of it as driving adoption effectively. Success isn't just about the tech being capable.
It's how you implement it.
It's more than that. Like EHRs showed, real transformation needs a coordinated push. Public and private messaging, serious investment, maybe even regulatory nudges, standards, incentives, perhaps penalties. It's much more involved than just rolling out new software in a typical business.
Right, because it changes workflows so fundamentally.
And because the stakes are so high. Also, AI has huge potential to finally realize the promise of the learning health system.
The LHS model, constantly learning from patient data.
Exactly. Using data from encounters, wearables, public health sources, feeding it back into the system for continuous improvement. AI could really accelerate that.
But that raises a question, doesn't it? If we need standards for AI, how do we develop solid evidence for them?
Yeah.
Especially
when there are just so many AI tools flooding the market. Orders of magnitude more than the decision support tools we saw in early EHRs.
Yeah. And many are from companies without a deep healthcare background.
That's a critical challenge. Ensuring robust evidence and effective standards in such a rapidly evolving, diverse landscape is going to be tough.
Which brings us back to the National Academy of Medicine's AI Code of Conduct, the AICC. This sounds like it's trying to provide that structure.
Precisely. It's designed as that blueprint for doing this responsibly. It has two main parts.
Okay.
First, the code principles. These are like the substantive guidance on how AI should actually impact health. Things like adaptability, accountability, putting people first.
And the second part.
The code commitments. These are more about the how-to. Procedural guidance on the process of developing and deploying AI tools. They help navigate the tensions when different principles might pull in opposite directions. Provides a framework for making those tough calls.
So let's look at that process. The AI development lifecycle in healthcare must be pretty unique.
It really is. Much more complex than typical software development. Let's break it down. Stage 1, design. Right from the get-go, you have to focus on clinical needs, ethics, privacy, regulations, and critically, unlike many other AI applications, you need access to large, high-quality, diverse, representative data sets.
To avoid that baked-in bias we talked about.
Exactly. Get the data wrong at the start, and you're building on a flawed foundation. Stage 2, development. This is iterative. Building models, testing, adapting, you're constantly checking for accuracy, robustness, but also subpopulation equity.
Meaning it works fairly for different groups.
Yes. Does it perform equally well across different races, genders, socioeconomic groups? Often this means customizing or calibrating the model using local data specific to the patient population where it will be used.
Okay, then comes implementation.
Right. And here, user-centered design is key. How does it fit into the clinician's workflow? Does it actually help or just add another click? Plus, you need significant additional training for the healthcare professionals who will use it, much more than for standard IT.
And finally, it's not over once it's implemented, is it?
Definitely not. Stage 4, maintenance. And this is a big one for AI. It's ongoing. It's substantial. They call it algorithmovigilance.
Algorithmovigilance. Like pharmacovigilance for drugs.
Kind of. You're constantly watching the AI. Remember drift?
Yeah, performance changing over time.
You have to monitor for that, for emerging biases, for drops in accuracy. You can't just set it and forget it like older software. It demands continuous, active oversight. Connecting this to the bigger picture, this whole complex life cycle needs that constant watching precisely because AI evolves and because its application is so critical.
That sounds incredibly resource intensive. How do you manage all that complexity, especially across large health systems or even nationally?
That's where governance models come in. The NAM report highlights one called the tight, loose, tight leadership model.
Tight, loose, tight. Okay, what does that mean?
It's a framework for managing change in complex systems like healthcare. The first tight is about vision, goals, and expectations.
Setting the direction.
Exactly. Getting broad agreement on the core values, the shared agenda. This happens through things like national laws, input from stakeholders, maybe certification bodies, setting standards, defining performance metrics. Everyone needs to be on the same page about the fundamentals.
Okay, that's tight one. Then loose.
The loose middle is for implementation and innovation. This allows for local flexibility. Different hospitals or clinics might implement AI differently based on their needs. Industry can innovate here.
Like regulatory sandboxes.
Precisely. That's a loose mechanism. Allows monitored experimentation, letting companies try new things within safe boundaries. It fosters innovation without letting it run wild.
And then the final tight.
Tight 2 is monitor and report. You have to track performance, measure outcomes, and share that learning across the system. Federal agencies, accreditation bodies, patient safety organizations, they all play a role here in ensuring accountability and continuous improvement.
So it balances top-down direction and bottom-up innovation.
That's the idea. It balances control with flexibility, which is absolutely crucial for something evolving as fast as AI, especially in a high-stakes field like healthcare. Without that tight oversight, the loose innovation could easily go off the rails, maybe amplifying bias or creating privacy risks in ways you wouldn't see with, say, a new marketing tool.
Okay, that framework makes sense. How does it connect back to the individual clinician or patient? How do these AICC commitments play out day to day?
Great question. Let's link it directly. Take commitment 1, advance humanity. This isn't just some lofty ideal.
It's practical.
It has to be. It means constantly asking, is this AI actually improving human health? It requires identifying potential benefits, weighing them against harms, mitigating those harms, and being transparent about all of it.
So thinking through the consequences.
Certainly. Then commitment 2, ensure equity. This is active. It means advocating for and using diverse representative data for training.
Fighting bias from the start.
Yes. And it means regular checkups on the AI's performance after deployment to spot and fix any disparities that emerge. You see efforts like healthdata.gov pushing for access to diverse data sets. That's commitment 2 in action at a system level.
And commitment 3, engaging people.
Engage impacted individuals. Crucial. Getting continuous feedback from patients, clinicians, caregivers, everyone affected throughout the AI's entire life cycle. Does it meet their needs? Does it align with patient preferences?
So patients have a voice here.
Absolutely. And think about it. Patients are already using personal AI tools, maybe health apps, for self-management. So for you, as a patient or an advocate listening, this commitment means you have grounds to push for transparency.
Like asking how your data is used.
Exactly. Asking for access to your data, the right to opt out, clear explanations. Your input is vital.
Okay, so those first 3 are foundational. What about the next ones, especially from a clinician's viewpoint? Commitment 4 is improve workforce well-being. This seems huge given the burnout crisis.
It is. AI tools should be designed to make your life easier. Improve workflows, reduce that cognitive load, cut down on documentation clicks.
The promise of less admin burden.
That's the goal. But there's a flip side, a risk we need to watch.
Which is?
That the efficiencies gained from AI don't actually translate into less work for clinicians. Instead, organizations might just assign more duties.
So you automate one task, but then 2 more get added to your plate.
Potentially, yes. Which would completely nullify the workload benefit and could even decrease professional satisfaction. It's all about how that human-AI partnership is managed in practice.
Okay, that's a critical nuance. Then commitment 5, monitor performance. We touched on this with drift.
Yes, and it needs constant reinforcement. Continuous monitoring after implementation is non-negotiable for AI because of drift, because of potential bias creep.
And you mentioned AIQI units.
Right, some health systems are setting up specific quality improvement units focused just on AI performance management. It shows the level of dedicated oversight needed.
So what's the key takeaway here for someone using an AI tool?
A really important point from the NAM report. Relying on clinicians to manually review and catch every single error made by an AI is a weak safety strategy.
What week?
Because if the AI has a certain error rate, expecting a busy clinician to reliably catch all those errors on top of their existing workload just isn't realistic or fair. The AI's own performance and error rate have to be understood and managed directly. You can't just assume human oversight will fix everything. That puts an immense, potentially unsafe burden on you.
That really shifts the perspective on responsibility. Okay, finally, commitment 6, innovate and learn.
This is about culture, fostering an environment where everyone sees interaction with AI as a chance to learn and improve the system.
So feedback is key.
Absolutely. Clinicians, your direct feedback to developers, what works, what doesn't, what drives you crazy, what would be genuinely helpful, that feedback is gold. It's how these tools go from okay to actually great. It's how better solutions get designed in the first place.
So clinicians are part of the innovation cycle.
Yeah, a crucial part. And wrapping this all together, it's vital to remember that the ultimate responsibility lies heavily with the healthcare organizations implementing these tools.
They need to ensure safety and equity.
Yes, they have to make sure these systems are safe, effective, and promote health equitably. And that means rigorously adhering to regulations and standards, HIPAA, ISO, Joint Commission requirements.
It's not optional.
It's fundamental. It's about compliance, yes, but more deeply, it's about building and maintaining trust and ensuring these powerful tools are used ethically and effectively. The requirements are and should be far more stringent than for AI and many other industries.
Wow. Okay, this has been a really illuminating deep dive.
Huh.
It's clear that AI in healthcare is, well, it's this landscape of incredible opportunity, but it's definitely tempered by some very significant, very unique challenges. It really underscores that this isn't just about the tech itself, is it? It's so deeply tied into people, ethics, the systems we work in. It really does feel different from AI anywhere else.
I agree completely, and that's why frameworks like the NM AI Code of Conduct are so important. They provide that essential blueprint for building trust, making sure patients are protected, and guiding innovation so it actually benefits everyone. Instead of just, creating new divides, it's our roadmap for responsible progress.
So as we wrap up, and as AI becomes more and more embedded in the fabric of healthcare, which seems inevitable, here's something for you, our listeners, to think about this week. A provocative thought, perhaps. What's one specific action you could take in your own sphere of influence to contribute to the responsible and equitable development or application of AI? Maybe it's asking a critical question about a tool you encounter. Maybe it's providing specific feedback. Maybe it's advocating for more diverse data in systems you use. What will your contribution be?
That's a great question to leave people with. We really encourage you to keep learning, stay engaged, and be an active voice in shaping this truly transformative future for healthcare.